If you've got spring fever, Lowe's has the cure. During SpringFest, make your landscape stand out with 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro 3/4 cubic foot garden soil when you buy 3. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances to keep clothes, food, and dishes fresh all season long. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/22 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Hi, welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug Dipierro show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello, Dick Morris. How are you?
So what's going on the Strait? And give it to me straight. Don't fudge it.
The Strait. Well, first of all, New John, our news guy over here, just told me that Iran shut it this morning or last night. But here's what we got going on. He says it's probably going to talk tomorrow to these people. So I have on our topic, Donald Trump said that the peace deal was very close after Iran moved to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But Tehran rejected the president's claim that it was ready to surrender nuclear materials. So, well, they better be, because nothing's going to happen unless they do, right? The upbeat signals from Washington came as a ceasefire took effect in Lebanon, but Iran sharply a different account of the talk suggested disagreements still stand in the way of an accord. We're very close. Looks like it's going to be very good for everyone, and we're very close to having a deal. That's my boy Trump talking in a brief telephone call. The Strait's going to be open. They already are open, and things are going very well. Of course, that's the way he talks, and it's going to happen. Trump's comments follow a series of social media posts touting progress on reopening the Strait, through which a fifth of global crude oil and liquefied natural gas has typically passed through. A testy response from Tehran, which disputed several key details. Iran's foreign ministry said its stockpile of enriched uranium would not be transferred anywhere, rejecting an earlier claim by Trump that the Islamic Republic had agreed to hand it over. Trump hailed a great and brilliant day for the world in celebratory posts praising mediated Pakistan and Gulf allies while telling NATO to stay away. He's amazing. Stay away. You should have helped us when we went in today. You're not helping us now, so get out. As he rejected the alliance offer to help secure the Strait. Yeah, after everything was done, right? After the truth took hold in Lebanon, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the Islamic Republic would lift its blockade on shipping through the key Gulf energy route. Now, you got to realize this stuff is changing every 8 minutes. Yeah. So, when we say one thing, something else might have happened an hour ago. Military vessels remain banned from the waterway, a senior Iranian military official said. Despite the gap between the two sides' accounts of the negotiations, Trump later told reporters, I don't think there's too many significant differences. Oil prices have already been falling in hopes of a negotiated end to the conflict, and the drop accelerated sharply after Iran's announcement. The ceasefire in Lebanon and the reopening of the Strait marked key progress in Washington's push for a broader deal to end the war with Iran, after Tehran insisted that halting the Lebanon fighting was a part of an agreement. Now, also New John was just telling us that Israelis fired on some Lebanese that came towards their caravan, I don't know what. So that's not a ceasefire problem. That's Lebanon coming after something, right? So we got to look at, a lot of people are going to say.
Let me just set this whole thing in perspective, because it's very important to understand what's going on in the Middle East. And the media really doesn't get it, and apparently Iran doesn't get it.
Yeah.
In what his history may judge to be one of his major achievements, President Donald Trump is fundamentally changing America's role in energy and production and in control of the global oil sales. Unable so far to cut a deal with Iran's surviving leaders as they dwindle, he has essentially rolled back history.
You mean there's no more leaders around?
They're dwindling.
They're dwindling.
It's great. I give you a promotion. You can be our lead negotiator. Oh no, please.
Or the guy.
I have 5 children.
or if you could limp to the place where we're going to negotiate, because who they talk
Well,
about.
don't make it to the front door. Unable so far to cut a deal with Iran's surviving leaders, the U.S. has essentially rolled back history to give the U.S. power to control global oil markets, and unilaterally a power we used to enjoy last century before the nations of OPEC took it away. Mm-hmm. And this history is so important to understand. Before the 2000s, the U.S. share of global oil production was so massive that the policing and production allocations of the market were actually vested in a body elected by the voters of Texas. Nobody else had anything to do with it. The Texas Railroad Commission. But as America's market share dropped, so did our power, and OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, stepped into the breach, often acting against American interests to preserve its international power. But in 2008, and this is the key point to understand, everything changed when the largely American geologists developed fracking, horizontal drilling for oil and gas on land. Before fracking, the U.S. share of global oil production had been dropping each year due to environmental and supply constraints, dwindling from roughly 4 to 8% to from 8 to 12% to 4%, only 4 million barrels. Got to understand the global production of oil in the world is 100 million. And the U.S.
100 million barrels
a day.
A day.
Right.
All right, go on.
And then, and the U.S. had about 4 to 5 million of them. Then, when the, last century, that share dropped because of environmentalists and supply constraints and all that.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Dropped all the way.
If I may. So, that's basically 10% of
Used to be.
United States. How many people producing oil? How many countries are there?
Oh God,
6? I mean,
100.
No, but real oil. You know.
At 20.
Right. Okay.
25.
Okay.
So there were 100 million barrels of oil produced, and the U.S. produced about 8 to 10 million of them, and that gave us tremendous power in the global oil markets. And we determined what the price would be. We determined who would get the oil, who wouldn't, and all of that. And then that was done by a Texas elected body, elected by the voters of Texas, called the Texas Railroad Commission. Nobody else had anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. Then in the 2000s, in the late 2000s, in 1990, OPEC stepped in. It said, move over Texas, move over in the U.S. You have such a small market share left, and you've so whittled it away that you don't control anything. We'll control it all. And OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting States, that included Iran and Saudi Arabia and all the others, and they said, we'll make the decisions about the allocation of oil, who will drill what, who will sell what, and to whom. Move over OPEC. Move over Texas. You're sidelined.
I see
well,
that.
What Trump has done is when he came into office, he said, nothing doing. We're going to become, OPEC is not going to be relevant. The U.S. will make these decisions. And they said, the hell you will. You don't have the market share to control that. And Trump said, just fasten your seatbelts. And from the time Trump took office until now, the U.S. production increased from about 5 million or 6 million barrels a day to 14 million.
Wow.
And that's what the U.S. produces now. So now the world's leading oil producer is the U.S. at 14 million. Second is Russia at about 11, and third is Saudi Arabia at about 10, and nobody else is more than 5. Right. So armed with that power, and Iran, which used to have full production, never got higher than 5 or 6. Mm. So Trump said, I'm going to make these decisions. I'm the new OPEC. And I'll decide who gets oil, who doesn't, and when it's delivered, and at what price. Mm. And I'll make the international decision. Then the U.S. became the de facto new OPEC.
Right.
With Europe too small to be important and OPEC overwhelmed by U.S. production, the U.S. now controls global energy pricing. In this new context, Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz through which 20% of the world's oil passes, is just one of the global choke points to control the trade. But President Trump is shaking his head and wondering how the Strait's closure became an American problem when so little of our oil flows through it. But by enforcing a global embargo on Iran's oil trade, he's in effect taking over and giving our Navy the power of OPEC used to have. In proposing a deal to Iran to give it back some measure of power that OPEC used to have, Trump is giving Iran back some of its global power if they, in return, give up nuclear ambitions.
Which they don't look like they're doing.
It's a take it or leave it proposition. Respect the new rules and American power, or you won't be able to sell anywhere, any oil, anywhere, to anybody at all.
That's going to do it.
Iran will inevitably bow to American power and relinquish de facto control of the Straits and other checkpoints. In the process, not only will America make Iran give up its nukes and enriched uranium, but bend to American will and power over the oil trade, and farewell to any Iranian power. Now, that's fundamentally what's been happening. And Iran is obfuscating it, saying, oh, no, it's not really happening. But in fact, it is. And in fact, it's just gradually closing the vice. And what you're looking at with Iran saying, oh, we're not reconciled, we have to negotiate and so on, is Iran trying to keep that vice open a few inches, but it's closing rapidly.
Well, may I? So here's what I see, just from history. In these negotiations, I believe, as I forget what it was, it's Saddam Hussein, where we need to have inspectors come in constantly to see what they're doing with this uranium, if they're developing. So that's going to be a big problem with negotiation, because they're going to say, no, you can't come in.
Yeah, but the problem is...
Do you not remember? Was it Saddam Hussein? Who was it?
Saddam Hussein, yeah.
Yeah.
But the word can't doesn't apply anymore, because the U.S. can do whatever the hell it wants. It's our oil now. And the important fundamental transformation is Trump transformed the global energy supply from a multilateral thing to basically a decision made by the United States Department of Treasury.
Plus Venezuela, people get mad when I say he's playing 3D chess. Bull. Venezuela, he knew what he was doing. We didn't realize what was going on. He knew he was going to Iran right after that, cutting off Cuba and whatever. So, but anyway, back to us being able to inspect. That's going to be, because they'll hold us. Oh, no, you can't come in today.
Yeah, they'll hold it for an hour.
With Trump.
Yeah, with Trump.
He's not Bush. He's not.
Because Trump is basically saying, I'm in charge now, and you're not in charge. And I'll make these decisions, and you better abide by them.
Yeah.
And if you
I'm
don't,
the boss.
And if you don't, I'll block you entirely from the oil market of the world.
Yeah.
Trump is saying you won't be able to sell a drop of oil to anybody or buy
and China,
from anyone unless you get my approval.
And China right now is saying to Iran, whoa,
Yeah.
You got to talk to this guy. We need our oil.
So what Iran has done is they've been trying to overplay their hand and say, oh, no, it's our decision. It's our strait. We control it. Nothing's going to happen until we approve it. That's baloney. That's just face-saving stuff.
Right.
The fact is that they have no power. They lost all their power. And, it's so funny. What made me realize what's going on here was a chart that I read by the Americans to Restore Prosperity, I think is the name of the group, Stephen Moore. And they looked at annual oil production. And when I saw that American oil production had dropped from 8 million to 4 million and then risen now to 14 million, I realized that what was happening was that the United States was asserting its global power and that Iran better get out of the way.
What are those numbers again? Tell me.
U.S. used to produce 8 million barrels a day.
As we said earlier.
That's off a baseline of 100. Then it dropped to 4 million because the environmentalists, the green movement, we ran out of oil and the oil fields were lost.
And now we're at 14.
Then Trump came along and said frack and offshore drill and Alaska and everything. And with that, our share of oil rose to its current 14.5 million out of the 100 million.
Right.
And Trump said, that gives me control over the oil market. I am OPEC.
Market
you
share.
am not. And because OPEC was never a treaty, it was a market share agreement.
Right.
And the result is that now the U.S. controls it. And then when Iran said, hey, well, you can't just go ahead and tell us what to do with our fuel, he said, the hell with you.
Why
yes,
not?
I can.
Yeah.
I'll drop you out of the oil business entirely.
Yeah.
I'll close it all. You won't be able to sell a drop. And Iran said, hey, wait a minute, we don't have anything else to do with our economy.
Right.
And Trump said, I don't care. You either obey my rules or forget it.
Trump had to deal with unions all his life. He's the union boss.
But that's what's going on now. Trump has taken over total control of the oil markets of the world. And that control is not anchored by some kind of treaty or some kind of agreement or even some kind of military threat. It's just a fact of who produces what. And what media is not reporting effectively in the United States, and we are on this show, is that Trump has taken over. It's now his show. And when they negotiate, when they say, no, we're not doing this, he basically is laughing. He's saying, I've got total power.
Yeah.
Now, one of the side issues here is what do we do with the uranium that is already enriched?
That's what I'm getting at.
The United States said, I want you to take every drop of it and give it to a third country, and we'll decide what that country is, and we'll decide what they do with it.
That's
and you
the
better
crux.
follow what we say.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Yeah, but then Iran
I
will
agree
say
with
no,
you.
and they'll be out of business.
I got it, and I believe you.
Trump's
and
got him in a stranglehold.
And I even know you're right about this, but they're going to do it. Because you watch. They're
and that's
going.
why Trump said today, Iran never learns.
Never. And they always stall the negotiation and he knows that. That's why he did what he did, blockade-wise.
And and what they're hoping, Iran, is that their threats and their bluster will be a de facto control.
Wait, say it again. What threats? What bluster? Of Iran?
Bluster in of Iran.
That they're
that they'll control it because the companies won't want to ship the oil. The insurance companies, the people that own the tankers, are all going to be cautious. And at the moment they are, but under Trump they won't, because Trump will say, I'll take care of it.
And you know what he did that was important? And he was just going to do it anyway. I don't think it's a strategy. He let certain ships go through, ships with the proper flags or whatever. So people, other countries say, wait a minute, this guy's not blockading the whole thing. He's not stopping all that. You know what I mean? They see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So they easily are now picking a side.
And it's under new management.
New management.
One side controls all of the oil and the other one controls none.
They should have a sign under new management.
So that's what's happening. And what Trump did before was with the blockade and with sending in half the Navy was to assert our power. And the brilliant thing is he did it without losing a single sailor.
That's unbelievable.
Without losing a single life. There were no shots fired.
Right.
Not even Iranians.
So one of the things right now is their bunkers where they have all this stuff. I mean, miles into into stone and tunnels. So, and we can't look in. We can't.
Now we can. Yeah.
That's going to be one of his negotiations. They're not going to go for that.
Yeah, it is. But
see, that's where we can get in a problem.
Yeah, but Trump has freaked them out so totally by a total blockade. And he's sitting there with an on-off switch.
All right.
If he flips it off, they go crazy. They fall apart.
I like what you said before. It's not going to, we'll just say no. I don't know what you said. It was pretty funny.
Anyway.
But anyway, we're going to go to break. Well, I think we're going to come back with On the Rocks.
Okay.
And so get ready for Little On the Rocks.